Ezekiel "Wicked" Romo. Ezekiel Romo, or Wicked to those who feared him, ruled LA's San Fernando Valley like a dark kingpin. Born in 1950 in Panorama City, he kicked off his criminal life early, taking a manslaughter rap at 18 after a deadly fast food joint altercation. Prison didn't tame him, it sharpened him. He linked up with the Mexican mafia inside, and once back on the streets, he turned the Blue Street Gang into a ruthless machine, taxing drug dealers and wiping out anyone who crossed him. Sentenced to life without parole at Sentinel State Prison, Romo's reign seemed untouchable until July 21, 2024. That evening, 3 inmates cornered him in the day room, shivs flashing. They stabbed him relentlessly, ignoring guards' pepper spray and chaos. By 9:52 p.m., he was gone, pronounced dead at a medical facility. The attackers, Christian Moreno, Johnny Garcia, and Christian Hernandez, were hardened lifers with their own bloody pasts. No one could say for sure if it was a power play or an old grudge, but Romo's brutal exit fit the life he'd led. Larry Davis. Larry Davis was a Harlem kid whose name echoed through New York's underworld long before his final day. He grew up hustling on rough streets, dabbling in music some likened to 50 Cent style, but it was crime that truly defined him. By his 20s, he was tangled in the drug trade, with rumors swirling about cops shielding him until everything exploded. In November 1986, he faced off with the NYPD in a South Bronx raid, shooting 6 officers and slipping away into fugitive lore. When the law finally nabbed him, Davis flipped the script, claiming he'd been a pawn for corrupt police who wanted him gone. His trial turned into a spectacle, and against all odds, a Bronx jury cleared him of the shootout charges, a first in U.S. history. The NYPD seethed, but another murder conviction eventually landed him behind bars. Fast forward to November 19, 2024. At 58, Davis was discovered lifeless in his cell at a New York City facility. No cause was pinned down, though speculation ran wild: retaliation from inmates, a quiet hit, or just the weight of his enemies catching up. His death stirred old debates about his legacy, part criminal, part rebel. James Whitey Bulger. James Whitey Bulgar ran Boston's Winter Hill Gang with a mix of brains and blood. Born in 1929 in South Boston, he went from car theft to bank heists, eventually steering a criminal juggernaut. His secret weapon? A crooked FBI agent, John Connolly, who fed him tips while he snitched on rivals. That game kept him free until a stint at Alcatraz, and a 16-year run as a fugitive finally ended in 2011. Convicted of 11 murders in 2013, Bulger got 2 life terms. On October 30, 2018, just a day after transferring to Hazleton Penitentiary in West Virginia, inmates beat him to death with a padlock in a sock. The culprits, Freddie Gaish and Paul DeCollegiero, knew his history well. It was a savage close to a life defined by betrayal and violence. Cleavino Dilva, Bino. Cleavino Dilva, known as Bino in Brazil's underworld, was a pint-sized terror with outsized clout. Born in 1979, he ran Rio de Janeiro's Red Command, a drug trafficking outfit that turned the favelas into war zones. Arrested and slapped with a 73-year sentence, he ended up in Bangu 3, a high-security unit in Rio's prison complex. Even locked away, he kept the gang's gears turning, a puppet master in a concrete cell. In 2019, Bino hatched a wild escape plan. He dressed up as his teenage daughter, silicone mask, wig, pink donut t-shirt, and tried to stroll out during a family visit. Guards caught on quick when he got jittery, and the stunt flopped. Days later, on August 6th, his body turned up in his cell, a bedsheet knotted around his neck. Officials called it suicide, but in a prison simmering with gang feuds, plenty doubted that story. Whether he took his own way out or got silenced, Bino's end closed a chaotic chapter. Richard the Iceman Kuklinski. Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman, was a hulking killer, 6'5", 270 pounds, who thrived on chaos. Born in 1935 in Jersey City, he blamed a brutal childhood for his path, turning petty crime into a murder spree by his teens. Working for the Gambinos and De Cavalcantes, he claimed over 200 kills, freezing bodies to throw off timelines. A suburban dad by day, he grilled burgers while hiding a double life. Busted in 1986 via Operation Iceman, he landed 2 life sentences for 5 confirmed murders. Prison didn't quiet him. He dished chilling tales in interviews, cool as ever. On March 5, 2006, at 70, he died right before testifying against a crime family. Natural causes were the line, but with health woes and a do not resuscitate order from his ex-wife, plenty smelled a setup. The Iceman melted away, leaving questions in the frost. Haim Valdez, money sign Suede. Haim Valdez carved out a name for himself as money sign Suede, a rapper whose music pulsed with the raw energy of LA's streets. Born to Mexican immigrants in Huntington Park, he was uploading tracks by 16 and snagged a deal with Atlantic Records while still in his teens. His 2020 hit, Back to the Bag, had fans nodding along to lyrics that mirrored his own struggles, gang life, violence, and a tightrope walk with the Mexican mafia. That connection wasn't just for show, it ran deep and dangerous. By 2023, Jaime was locked up at the California Men's Correctional Facility in Soledad, serving a 32-month stretch for gun charges out of Riverside and LA counties. Life inside didn't slow him down much, until it stopped him cold. On April 26th, he turned up dead in the shower area, a stab wound ending his story fast. No one knew exactly who did it or why, though whispers pointed to gang beef or a revenge hit tied to his affiliations. The investigation dragged on without answers, leaving a rising star silenced in a place where talent couldn't shield him from the past. Thomas Silverstein. Thomas Silverstein, also known as Terrible Tom, wasn't just a prisoner. He was a nightmare in human form who earned the title of America's most notorious prisoner. Hooked up with the Aryan Brotherhood, he landed in prison in 1978 for armed robbery. But his real infamy came later. While incarcerated, his propensity for violence escalated, marked by a series of stabbings and assaults that solidified his fearsome reputation. In 1983, at the U.S. Penitentiary in Marion, Illinois, he stabbed a corrections officer, Merle Klutz, to death, cementing his reputation as untouchable. More killings followed, with 2 inmates falling to his blade, and the system responded by throwing him into solitary confinement for what would become the rest of his life. The level of danger he posed to everyone led to him becoming one of the longest-held prisoners in isolation in the United States. Decades in isolation at ADX Florence, the Alcatraz of the Rockies, made him a symbol of prison's harsh edge. On May 11, 2019, Silverstein passed away in a Colorado hospital at 67, with heart complications taking him out after weeks of declining health. Natural causes got the official nod, but his long list of enemies left some wondering if it was more than that. Speculation arose that his violent past may have caught up to him, with some suggesting retaliation from his enemies or even a targeted attack within the prison system. Either way, 36 years alone marked the end of a man both feared and caged. Michael Mosca Torres. Michael Torres, dubbed Mosca, or The Fly, buzzed through the Mexican mafia with a grip that wouldn't quit. Born on January 24, 1964 in San Fernando, California, he was originally associated with the San Fur Gang before being sponsored into the Mexican mafia in 1994 by Luis Yeto Flores. He served 16 years for manslaughter before hitting the streets again in the early 2000s. He climbed fast, being appointed a tax collector for the mafia in the San Fernando Valley, a powerful position that gave him oversight of drug profits and extortion payments. He ran LA County jails like his personal fiefdom and was known for his ruthless enforcement. In 2003, he shot and killed David Diablo Mendoza after confirming Mendoza's claims of mafia affiliation were false. Even a life sentence for attempted murder and other charges couldn't clip his wings. He chose to represent himself in court, a move many believe was a calculated tactic to remain in jail and continue running his operations from the inside. He used smuggled phones to keep the cash flowing, manage finances, and enforce a 1/3 tax on drug sales that funded the Mexican mafia. That power made him a target. On July 6, 2023, two inmates, Ray Cisco Martinez and Anel Martinez, caught him off guard in California State Prison, Sacramento. They stabbed him dead by 10:30 a.m., ending his run in a flash of steel. No one nailed down the why, maybe a rival's grudge or a shift in the pecking order, but Mosca's fall showed how fast loyalty could turn in those walls. Francis Cadillac Frank Salem. Francis Salemi, or Cadillac Frank, rolled through Boston's underworld with old-school mob flair. Born on August 18, 1933, he traded petty theft for big-time rackets with the Patriarca crime family, with his ambition and love for flashy cars earning him his nickname. By the 1960s and 70s, he was heavily involved in loan sharking and extortion, and by the 90s, he was calling the shots as the head of the family. But the 1993 murder of nightclub owner and federal informant Stephen DeSaro started his slide. The body, buried for years, resurfaced to haunt him. Convicted of racketeering in the mid-90s, Frank flipped in 1999, becoming an informant himself and ratting out pals like James Whitey Bulger to lighten his load, which led to his placement in the Witness Protection Program. It didn't save him. He was arrested again in 2016 for his role in DeSaro's murder, and a 2018 murder conviction locked him up for life. On December 13, 2022, he died at 88 in the Federal Medical Center in Devens, Massachusetts, chalked up to natural causes. Still, with enemies stacked high, some figured it wasn't that simple. Cabo, Lee Amos. Across the pond in Manchester, England, Lee Amos, better known as Cabo, built a criminal empire that gave the city its Gunchester nickname. Alongside his buddy Colin "Piggy" Joyce, he turned the Gooch Gang into a terror squad, with one police officer describing them as psychopaths who shoot for fun. Their reign started young, with petty crimes spiraling into drive-by shootings and cold-blooded hits as they dealt drugs and stacked bodies. A 2009 drive-by that killed Tyrone Gilbert finally brought them down, with testimony from 6 former gang members leading to their conviction for murder, attempted murder, and firearm offenses. This earned Cabo a 35-year sentence. On April 22, 2024, he was found dead in his cell at HMP Oakwood. No one could pin down what happened: suicide, a hit, or something else entirely. The personal sting of his younger brother Stefan's 2002 murder had fueled his brutality and deepened his commitment to his violent lifestyle. But in the end, prison snuffed out his story.